How's it going? Welcome to the Trades and Grades podcast. I'm your host, Noah Wright. No one is alongside me this week. I am riding solo. Caleb and Cameron are both out, but we will move on with the show. We're actually doing something a little bit different this week. Instead of our hour-long podcast we usually do, I'm gonna start mixing it up and start having some shorter shows. So this show we will do an injury report, and then we'll also put out kind of a week 6 overview, and then week 7 things to look forward to, players who've got good matchups who we're picking to play. We think we'll have good weeks. So like I said, this show is going to be the injury report, and we'll see how this goes. I know that it's a little tough to listen to an entire podcast, so trying to mix some things up, make it a little bit easier for people to watch and to listen. Speaking of which, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe there to our channel, and if you are listening, please give a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever you're listening to. We'd really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's look at some injuries that have occurred from week 6. Hate to see it in fantasy football, but there are some. So we'll just kind of go down the list here of notable injuries that are being taken into week 7 that you should be alert on, and perhaps some players you should be picking up off waivers. Starting with the Cardinals, we talked about this last week, but we have James Conner questionable with the ribs. He did not practice Wednesday. He most likely will not play in the Thursday night game against the Saints, if I had to guess. Short week. They've got no Darrell Williams as well. Benjamin, if he's still on your waivers, we talked about him last week. He didn't have the greatest weeks of all the running backs coming off the waivers. We know that we had, Deion Jackson had a pretty good week. Latavius Murray had a semi-solid week. There are some other ones we'll probably get to, but if Benjamin's still on your waivers, that's something that you should probably be looking at. Moving on down, Falcons should be good. I mean, Kyle Pitts finally had a touchdown. He's back to being healthy. They still don't have Cordell Patterson. He's on IR. Damian Williams as well. Lamar Jackson was limited at practice Wednesday with a hip injury. J.K. Dobbins' knee didn't practice at all. A little bit concerning. J.K. didn't have the greatest week this past week. And he's being spelled by Kenyon Drake, blast from the past. So another guy I'd be looking to get perhaps in this week's waivers, if you haven't already, if he's still on your waiver wire, picking up Kenyon Drake would be a nice little addition. Mark Andrews also not participant Wednesday due to a knee issue. Wouldn't be super worried about that, or Lamar Jackson. I think they'll be fine and play. It's Wednesday, so you can't take a whole lot from it, but just depends on re-aggravation, if they're making their way through an injury, or if it's something that's just popped up recently. Sometimes veterans aren't going to be playing, or star players aren't going to be playing practice on Wednesdays just because they need a little bit of time off. Baker Mayfield looks questionable. Wasn't in uniform. I doubt that he'll play this week. It seems like they're going to roll out PJ Walker, as Darnold's still on the IR. Their interim head coach said he needs to look and see if he's going to be available for Sunday's game. Darnold, but I doubt it. If they're going to go with anything, it looks like PJ Walker and then maybe Baker. Although they're kind of, they have Matt Corral as well on the IR. So their entire quarterback staff, quarterback depth chart is hurting quite a bit. As PJ Walker, I believe, also got injured, or he picked up something either during the game, or they haven't said a lot on the report, but I know that he did have an injury designation at some point. Justin Fields indicated he re-aggravated an injury to his left non-throwing shoulder. Haven't heard a whole lot about that. I don't suspect that to keep him out of this week's game. Jamar Chase, hip injury. T. Higgins, ankle still, but he had a pretty solid week this week. So I think moving through this next week, he'll be all right, back to full health. So I wouldn't be too worried about him. Moving along, I was a little apprehensive this week of starting him. I didn't in the leagues that I had him, just because of the goose egg from the week prior. They use him as a decoy, but clearly he was okay. And so if you have Higgins or if you have Chase, obviously I wouldn't be scared of starting him, especially you see what Chase can do this past week. I know Higgins can do the same. Um, so yeah, 100% starting him this upcoming week. CD Lamb was limited at practice Wednesday by a hip injury. I know he's been hurt. He was coming off a little bit of something this past week. I think he'll be all right. He seemed to be playing okay against the Eagles. James Washington's still in IR. He said that it's pretty much healed, feels great during a workout on Wednesday. We'll see what he really feels like once he gets on the field. Sometimes that's just, players are going to say they feel great. But what does that really mean? Nothing on Dalton Schultz on the injury report. Have not heard if he's going to be able to play this week. Russell Wilson, limited participant Wednesday's practice, saying that his hamstring was hurting him, but he's getting better each day. Don't know if that's even going to be much of an issue for the Broncos because they've been playing pretty abysmal on the offensive side of things. I'm not sure things can get a whole lot worse, even if he was to not play. I don't want to discredit Russell because he's shown that he can play well the first half. This last week he played well. Second half is pretty horrible. But I imagine that's the best option that they have, which is crazy to even say that at this point. DeAndre Swift, ankle, shoulder, limited at practice Wednesday. I suspect he'll be back this week after being out a couple weeks, and this past week he had a bye. I would almost be shocked if he didn't play. But keep an eye on that just in case. Make sure he's not in your lineup, come Sunday. For some reason, he doesn't play. He might be limited snaps. Jameson Williams, knee still coming off the ACL, has not said if he's going to come off the reserve list. Hopefully, he will soon. If he's still on your waivers, I go and get him immediately, especially stash him on your IR. I suspect he's probably not on your waivers. I drafted him late in our one of my redraft leagues, and he has been sitting on my IR for 6 weeks now. So I'm really hoping he comes back soon, is able to make an impact. I'm not quite sure what I expect for him to do because of the injury. Getting into their offense is going to take a little bit. It kind of reminds me of Rashad Bateman last year, where he knew he was talented, but he was injured the first half of the year. It's tough to get acclimated. And you have Amon-Ra St. Brown on the other side. DeAndre Swift is going to demand quite a few targets as well. So TJ Hawkinson, not really. But, I'll say his name just because it's the name. But I don't really think he's going to command a whole lot. But nonetheless, something to keep an eye out for. James Williams coming off the IR hopefully soon. Randall Cobb's out, sideline expected to be 2 to 4 weeks. I suspect that probably to be on the latter end of that, especially him being older. We will see if you have Christian Watson perhaps on your waivers. I'd say he's maybe good enough for a dart throw. I don't know if I'm spending a lot of my fab money to go get him. But as he becomes available, they're eventually going to have to get somebody because Sammy Watkins is on IR. He's been a limited participant this past Wednesday in practice. We will see if they get him off the IR. Matt LaFleur says he's not saying he's going to play this Sunday, so we won't know for a couple days yet. But they pretty much have nobody there right now. And Aaron Rodgers' right thumb was a non-participant at Wednesday's practice. So they're pretty much the entire team, besides the running backs, have some sort of injury designation. Not ideal. If you're a Packers fan, if you're a Bears fan like me, not terribly upset. But still doesn't matter because I'm sure they'll beat the Bears at some point this year. Again, anyway. So Texans, not exactly injury related, but I did see that Lovie Smith said today that Dameon Pierce is looking to get 20 carries at this upcoming game, and they want to keep him going in that offense. If you're a Dameon Pierce holder, that's great news for you. I liked him a lot coming into from a dynasty perspective, coming in from this offseason where he's getting drafted in a lot of rookie drafts. So if you got him late in the redraft leagues, obviously it's one of the better picks in terms of running backs this year. Moving on to the Colts, Jonathan Taylor still questionable, limited at practice today with the ankle injury. I suspect he'll probably be back this week. Um, it's hard to tell. Deion Jackson had a pretty solid week, so you don't want to rush Jonathan Taylor back, even though it sounds kind of crazy. But you'd rather him be healthy. Naheem Hines concussion practice fully Wednesday. I would imagine if he passes through all stages of the concussion phase protocol, he'll be back this week, which I suspect he probably will be. Moving through to the Kansas City Chiefs, any notables? Blake Bell, still on IR. If you have him, that's a really, really deep dart throw. But Darren Waller isn't practicing on Wednesday. If we're moving on to the tight end, if we're moving from the Chiefs to the Raiders in tight endville, Waller hamstring not practicing Wednesday doesn't make me feel great. He's been a huge disappointment this year. If you drafted him in the 4th or 5th round, you might as well have just waited until like the 8th or 9th round and picked some random guy or honestly somebody off the waivers because he has been pretty much no use. Keenan Allen, hamstring, limited, shocker, still hasn't played since week 1. It sucks if you have him because you've now wasted a third of your season waiting for him to come back, in which it seemed like he might come back after a game or two. It's just always day to day, day to day, day to day. So until he's back, I'm not putting him in my lineups unless there's full 100% participation and they're saying, yes, he's healthy, good to go. He's going to run all the routes he's going to normally run. Dustin Hopkins, if you have him as your kicker, out 2 to 4 weeks with the hamstring, gutted it out this week to hit the game-winning field goal in prime time. That was a really gross game to watch. Even if you're a Broncos fan or a Chargers fan, I don't know anyone who would have liked that game personally, but it was really good if you like special teams, plenty of field goals. So hurt the hamstring, but yeah, if you need another kicker, pick one off of waivers. It seems like he's going to be out for at least a couple weeks, if not up to a month. Jalen Waddle, shoulder injury, limited at practice. I think he'll be okay to go this week. They are playing a very bad Pittsburgh defense, giving up a lot of points to wide receivers. So if he's on the field, you're playing him no matter what, because at any point in time, he could go ballistic, as Tyreek Hill did last week. Jalen Waddle had a pretty solid game. Mac Jones, questionable, does not have any comments on how he's moving along, but backup quarterback Bailey Zappi has been playing fantastic for the Patriots the last 2 weeks. Can it be because they've played poor defenses and he's worked really well in the system? Perhaps. It'll be interesting to see how quickly they bring Mac Jones back off of that injury. Michael Thomas. Stop me if you've heard this one before. It's already been ruled out of Thursday's game against Arizona. Really sucks because he had a great first couple of weeks, and then now it's just kind of foot injury. Now I'm just not going to play. He's been hurt. Saints are really hurting on the wide receiver, and Chris Olave was not listed on the injury report. I don't know if he will be back this week with the concussion. I don't think so, but we will see come Thursday. Perhaps game time decision. Jarvis Landry's already been ruled out with an ankle, so they have pretty much no wide receivers. Deontay Hardy, another wide receiver, already placed on IR. So they just need anybody and everybody at wide receivers, pick up guys straight off the streets. The only thing I could think of that would be good for anybody here is for Alvin Kamara. Just throw the ball to him. 20 targets, just an absurd amount. And I'm certainly not saying that because I have Alvin Kamara in multiple leagues. No, I just think that they should be throwing him an insane amount of targets because they have nobody else. Moving on to the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley. Practice limited capacity Wednesday, shoulder injury. Now, we hurt his shoulder a couple weeks ago. Played through it this past week, played just fine. Had a pretty solid game. Still kind of lingering a little bit, so we'll see if he's going to be able to go this week. I suspect he'll be fine. Probably just it's a Wednesday practice, just taking a little rest. Kadarius Toney won't practice Wednesday, hamstring. I doubt that he'll be going this week, but he's only questionable, not doubtful at this point. But their wide receiver core is also hurting. Wandale is a possible pickup in leagues where if you're desperate for a wide receiver, it might be something that you're looking to get. I'm not sure how much I would be spending. I wouldn't spend a whole lot on him, but it is something that keep your eye out for because of the opportunities he's going to have. There's almost nobody else there that is healthy and a wide receiver. Pat Freiermuth, concussion, was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. It's good to hear. We've seen the linger effects of concussion with Tua. Different position, obviously, but it's tough. Now I'm sure they will become much more aggressive with their, I guess, perhaps less aggressive. I don't know how to phrase it, but the protocol is going to be a lot more difficult to get through. They want to have better player safety, I would hope, after the recent events with Tua. Kenny Pickett going through the concussion protocol as well. Says he's been cleared to participate fully in Wednesday's practice. I don't know if he'll be able to come around in a few days and play against the Dolphins. I would say most likely Trubisky will be starting, but we'll just keep an eye on it for the next couple of days and see how Kenny Pickett progresses through that. Tyler Lockett, questionable, non-participant Wednesday's practice due to hamstring. He played this past week, had a dud of a week. Him and DK both. I don't think that it's going to be an issue because he played this last week and he was okay. I think it's just one of those type of deals where it's just a veteran taking rest on a Wednesday. He already had an injury, but we'll just see, how it moves along the next couple of days. Obviously, Rashad Penny's on IR. Cameron Brate, neck isn't practicing. So that leaves, some opportunities for a couple other players around the Buccaneers to perhaps excel. Tom Brady is slowly trying to, keep these fantasy players relevant with Mike Evans had an okay week. Chris Godwin had a fantastic week, 6 catches on 12 targets, and a pretty decent game in terms of fantasy. So we will see if Tom Brady can keep elevating this team like he has in years past. Julio Jones did not practice. I would just, if you have him, I don't think he's worth a roster spot in my opinion. Sad to say that at this point, but he is just not worth reserving a spot on your bench when there's other players like Alec Pierce, who I'd much rather have coming off the waivers. I got him off the waivers, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So it might not be out there right now, but he had been in the last few weeks. Logan Thomas did not participate in Wednesday's practice, calf injury. He's questionable. If you're getting hit hard by the bye weeks, something to look at as tight end's a tough position to fill unless you have an Andrews or Kelsey. But even if you do, and you're looking to get some help on these bye weeks, Logan Thomas is a sneaky little pick if he's been hurt and he's been left from your waivers. Go ahead and snatch him up. Jahan Dotson, hamstring, return to practice on Wednesday, limited participant. Good to see. Hamstring is a tough injury to come back from, as we've seen with Keenan Allen. But hopefully he can get back around and playing this week. He's a great downfield threat. Carson Wentz is out for about 4 to 6 weeks with his right ring finger. He had surgery on it. So that is a tough blow for the Commanders. We'll see what they can do with, a couple backups. Will Sam Howell start? I don't know. I think that's probably in their best interest based on how the beginning of the season's gone. But Taylor Heineke might be the one starting on this upcoming week. So we will see. All right. That is it. That's the injury report for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Appreciate you guys listening. And we will put out some more episodes this week on what we think about week 6, what's happened, and then upcoming week 7, and players we think are going to have some pretty solid production. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.